With a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment in my life.
Hey, yo.
Hey, yo.
Did you play the countdown?
I did play the countdown.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't see the countdown, but I saw our little intro. So I'm sat there thinking, are we live now? Can people see me? I don't know. I better put the knob away. You know?
So, I mean, hello, everyone, first of all. But did you still see like this part, like me and you?
Yeah.
And could you hear everything?
No, it was just silent.
All right. So you didn't hear me calling you a toss pot? Oh, no, man.
Nah.
Anyway, let's get on with this show.
But I saw the bit, you know. That came on like normal.
The intro came on. In the chat, did you see the countdown? I mean, Matt's already confirmed it. Thank you, Matt.
Okay. This happened to me the other week as well, didn't it?
Yeah, this is a you thing.
Yeah. Oh, the chat's going funny for me as well, mate.
Brilliant.
I haven't got people's little faces. I got Matt Willis's face there next to his comments.
And literally, guys, 2 minutes ago, he was like, "Oh, my internet's been playing up," and I'm fully back online now.
Hang on. My internet has been fine all day, and then it went off and came back on again, literally just as that as we were about to go live. So I've got nothing up at the top here telling me how many viewers we've got. Oh no, that's just come back. Okay, what's going on, man?
I think your Amiga computer just can't handle the internet. Maybe it's time to upgrade. Yeah.
Oh man, yes, maybe you're right, Max. Maybe you're right. I do need to sort that out, I think. Anyway. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Si, a Radio Techers production. I am Si, and with me, as always, is the man to my deep pan. I bloody love a pizza, Mags. Bloody love a pizza. The perfect plex to my Anita specs, and that is becoming more and more obvious to me, especially at work, because they have the tiniest picking lists in the world, and I can't read them properly, mate. I can't see it.
Get some glasses.
I'm gonna have to, mate. And the thing is, my work pay for my eye tests as well, and all that sort of stuff. So I got no reason not to. It's just down to laziness, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very surprised you're not like something free. Of course, I'll have it.
A podcaster who, in hindsight, probably had a far better return than Triple H did in 2002, Mr. Mags.
Whoa!
How are we doing?
I'm doing good. What a slat on poor Triple H after his recent troubles, and you're there slagging off the time in his career where he won the most world championships. Ridiculous.
Well, no, okay. The comeback was good. The Madison Square Garden thing was good. Winning the Rumble, obviously winning the Royal Rumble is always good. And he main evented WrestleMania, didn't he? Great stuff. Mm-hmm. But
then he ruined it by never letting go.
Yeah, exactly. And even when they took the titles to another show, they just gave him another one.
Yeah. And then a year later, he did the whole "you people" thing, which was...
Yeah, let's not talk about that, mate. Let's not talk about that.
I mean,
Who have we got in the chat then? Who have we got in the chat before we get on with the show? Because it's a bumper show. We've got 2 matches to look at.
We do, yeah. It's going to be hard work cramming this into 2 hours, but we can do it. I'm sure we can.
We'll do it, mate.
So in the chat, we've got Matt coming in like 20 minutes ago with Boom Shake the Room, and also I'll get a bit serious now. Matt has put as well. Today's made a decision that he's going to start looking after his own mental health. Absolutely, should definitely do that, Matt. Take it from 2 people with a lot of experience in that. You should do that before it gets to a point where it happens to you. What happens to me, where basically you end up becoming a wreck of a human being. So yeah, good luck with that, and we are both here if you need to chat. Let us know how it goes. On to more lighter topics. It's Monday. You know what that means from your good lady Sharon. Dan Griffin in the chat, and look at the support straight away for Matt. We're all behind you, Matt. So definitely go to that appointment and let us all know we're all here for you. Morty in the chat as well. Scottish Danny, hello to you, good sir. And it's Bafna as well for Andy from Bang Bang. So Yeah, we've got quite the packed audience again today. Bumper show, thanks to my godlike influence. Yeah, we will get to that later on, Dan.
That was weird, wasn't it? Yeah, we'll get to that shortly. I just want to sort of echo what you said, Magsy, to Matt as well. Yeah, mate, if you feel like you need to make that decision, fucking great stuff. Make that decision. Brilliant. Well done. Get yourself checked out. Go and speak to who you need to speak to, you know. And also, I want to say it's amazing seeing how many people in the CWF are all just jumping in and saying, yo, Matt, we're with you, and all that sort of stuff. I think we say it all the time how great our little community is, how great our little corner of the internet is, or even our corner of the internet that is the internet wrestling community, I suppose, the CWF and so on. You guys and girls are absolutely fantastic, and the support you showed Magsy and your support you showed me in different things, and Matt now, it just shows that everyone's here for each other, and that is awesome. So yeah, thank you to everyone there. And Matt, you know, you got my number, mate. You know where I am. So yeah.
Absolutely. Two messages in the chat that I actually missed. They definitely need bringing up. Mort, 5 seconds in, Sam mentioned his knob. Another week, another show. And then to continue with the Sa slander, did Sa say back on loin? He must have been sneaking something in under the desk. Yeah, I think that's just his farmer accent.
I didn't say that. I said I was back online. You said back on loin, doing a stupid impression of me.
Is it a stupid impression, or is it an impression of someone stupid? Who knows?
Whoa.
That was mean. That was mean. I apologise.
That was harsh, mate. Bloody hell. Oh, dear. Yes, so we have 2 matches to look at, and we have a very interesting non-wrestling topic as well. So I suppose, in theory, Maxie, we should really crack on and try and get this done. So, shall we get rid of a couple of embarrassing gimmicks, mate? Chuck them away into the old Hall of Lame?
Let's do it.
Bit misty.
Definitely not from smoking his wacky tobacco, folks.
Don't smoke, kids. It's bad for you, okay? Mags, what are we getting rid of this week, my friend?
Right, so for me this week, I'm going to kind of bend the rules of Hall of Lame slightly. No. I mean, I tend to do that with the other topics on Matt as well. But the part of it that's lame is this. What I'm going to put in was actually all brought up because Vince McMahon wanted to punish a wrestler, and said wrestler took what Vince gave him as punishment and run with it to maybe be the best thing he did in his whole career. So let's go back to the year 2000. A little group of WCW wrestlers. Yeah, exactly. I always bend the rules. A little group of WCW wrestlers made the jump. The Radicals. You may have heard of a couple of them. Anyway, 2 of them went on to be huge stars. One of them was kind of in the twilight of his career, and this was kind of like winding down to become more of a backstage influence on wrestling. And then there was the odd one out of the Radicals, let's say, Perry Saturn. Now, he in mid 2001 was working a show with a jobber, or enhancement talent as they were called, a guy called Mark Bell. Now, Mark Bell potatoed Saturn a couple of times, so Saturn gave him a receipt, and that receipt was a bit of a beating. Really kind of worked stiff on him. So when he went backstage, Vince was fuming, and it turned out this punishment would be his gimmick change was he would have brain damage, taking one too many shots to the head. So he would go around talking to people, and he would tell them that they're welcome, even though he's in feuds with people. And he kind of then got shoved into the hardcore division of WWF. So he was in a hardcore title match on the 19th of June 2001. And This is when the final part of his punishment came to light, because during this match, which was against Test, it was a hardcore match, all where they used weapons, stop signs, trash cans. In this one, he also had to use a mop. This mop actually had a name. It was called Moppy Q Mopperson. So during the match, Perry Saturn took the big boot from Test, the finisher, but Perry had hold of the mop, and the mop broke. So after Perry lost the match, he was distraught about this mop breaking. Takes it backstage, totally ignoring his manager at the time, manager slash kayfabe girlfriend at the time, who was Terry Runnels. Takes this mop backstage, and over the coming weeks, made a face on the mop, and ended up being in a romantic relationship with this mop. Ditched Terry Runnels as his manager, went on blind dates and double dates with Dean Malenko with the mop. But eventually that mop was mop-napped.
Mop-napped?
It was mop-napped. And Perry was distraught, really, really trying to find where Moppy had gone. And it turns out that Raven had mop-napped Moppy, because he was now working with Terry.
Hang on. Can you hear what you're saying?
I can.
It turns out Raven had mop-napped Moppy.
Yeah, it gets worse. It absolutely gets worse. So to kind of like put more emphasis on the feud, Raven and Terry Runnels got onto the Tantron, and they had Moppy essentially sellotaped to a piece of wood, and they fed poor Moppy into a wood chipper, essentially murdered somebody live on TV.
They murdered. It was Mike. They didn't murder someone. It was a mop.
It was a live mop, and to make sure Moppy couldn't scream, they put tape over Moppy's mouth.
Nobody wants to hear the screams, though.
Of a mop? No, absolutely not.
That'd be bone chilling, wouldn't it?
So poor Perry Saturn, absolutely devastated. He actually got his revenge on Raven because Unforgiven was at the end of that week, and he ended up winning that match. But there was a mop-shaped hole left in poor Perry Saturn's life. Oh. But there is a happy ending to this, because just after that, on Sunday Night Heat, Scotty 2 Hottie was tag teaming with Perry Saturn, and he felt that Perry's head wasn't in the game because of all the issues that's going on with Moppy. So he introduced Perry to a new mop. That mop was called Moppy 2 Hottie. and the brush head of the mop was sparked up, kind of like Scotty 2 Hottie, and that was love at first sight again for Perry Saturn. He thanked Scotty by saying worms are good dancers, because he was still continuing this brain damage bullshit, and they ended up winning the match against Just Incredible and Raven. So even though the punishment of being given a brain damage gimmick is going into the Hall of Fame, this is a happy Hall of Fame, because Perry Saturn had the best work of his career when he loved a mop.
Oh man, the thing that got me as well when you said about that is that he went backstage and he ignored Terry. Now in this era, Terry was stunning, you know, and he's looking at this mop, and I remember him looking at this mop, and she was just like, "I don't get it," you know. I mean, it's difficult to ignore her anyway. If she turned sideways, she'd take your eye out, wouldn't she? Let's be honest, you know.
Oof. Sorry, ladies.
But it's true. It was almost like, you know, she was always, you know, Tic Tac smuggling, or she was always very cold, wasn't she? Do you know what I mean? It was always the case.
It always was. You're right.
You know, but yeah, Moppy does. Oh dear, it was so silly, but he made it work, didn't he? He made it work.
and that. There's so many ridiculous gimmicks like that where you think they should never work in any kind of facet of wrestling. But if you have the charisma, or if you can put all of your effort in, you can make anything work. I mean, Al Snow made a mannequin's head work. So props to Perry Saturn for making a mop the best thing he ever did.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Oh dear. I can remember the scene as well when they put the mop in the chipper, and it did work because I felt sorry for the guy.
Yeah, exactly. Even though you were just mocking the fact that they covered his mouth up, covered her mouth up. Sorry,
Her
with
mouth,
sellotape.
Yeah, her life. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Perhaps I shouldn't have done that, but there we go. There we go. It was just a fucking mop.
How dare you? How dare you?
I am going to go for something this week. Well, someone, sorry, who could potentially be described as wooden, as moppy, I guess, in their charisma and performance levels. This is a guy who worked for WCW for a while, but and he could go in for his WCW run as is as well. But his WWF run that only really lasted maybe 6 months tops is what I'm going to chuck this guy into the Hall of Fame for. In 1993, in the Royal Rumble, we had one absolutely huge, massive giant of a man win the contest in Yokozuna. No slight on Yokozuna. Absolutely, I love Yokozuna. Fantastic stuff. When I was a kid, I thought he was so scary and so on. However, we had another giant of a man debut in that match too, and that was the Giant Gonzalez. Now, if people haven't seen any of 1993 WWF, to be fair, I strongly advise you don't go and check it out. Just don't ever do it. 1993, I think, is potentially the worst year, the worst 12-month period in wrestling. Barring the King of the Ring pay-per-view and anything Bret Hart did, it is terrible. Even though the match that I put forward for this week's poll is actually from 93. I just realized I'm contradicting myself hugely there, but there we go. In the Royal Rumble, the Giant Gonzalez is escorted down to the ring with Harvey Whippleman. And this is a guy who played the character El Gigante in WCW. Was originally going to be the Yeti as well. Because after WWF, they rehired him. That's how dozy WCW were. He was going to be the Yeti as well before he got poorly backstage and had to change plans. But this gimmick is the suit is that of Hall of Fame.
Thank the Lord. Yes.
He's coming down to the ring, and this guy is, I mean, was he like genuinely like 7.5 foot or something like that, Magsy, wasn't he? Like,
yeah, he was an Argentinian basketball player, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And he had this suit on because obviously, you know, we saw him in WCW with no muscles or anything like that. He basically had sprayed on muscles onto this suit to make him look more muscular. With Dan Griffin in the chat there, airbrushed muscles and carpet pubes. But on his shoulders though.
And in his pubes.
Yeah. And it came to the ring, and I mean, first impressions. Whoa, who is this? Look at the size of the guy. Of course, naturally, he's bloody massive. But then he tried to get in the ring, and then he tried to beat up the Undertaker, which he did, and straight away the wheels came off, and you're just looking at it and thinking, this is terrible. It led to a match at WrestleMania 9, which surprisingly enough was no better than what happened in the Rumble. The Undertaker won via disqualification because Giant Gonzalez chloroformed him, as you do. This led to another match in SummerSlam that year, and eventually the Undertaker won that contest. Gonzalez turned face to the joy of absolutely nobody, and was supposed to be entering into a feud with other Harvey Whippleman sort of wrestlers from his stable, so the likes of Adam Bomb and all that sort of stuff, but it never really happened, and he was released a month or two later. And like I said, even after all that garbage, WCW still rehired him. But yes, my entrant into the Hall of Fame this week is the Giant Gonzalez from 1993 WWF, Magsy.
Yeah, I think Matt speaks for everyone when he says, how is Giant Gonzalez not already in the Hall of Fame? Yeah, he was so damn bad. And the airbrush costume was horrific. It genuinely looked like a naked, hairy Neanderthal. And his horrific beard didn't help as well, because he had the beard underneath, but then no mustache, which is a a weird look.
Yeah.
And then the massive clown feet shoes that he had on, they didn't help. But I suppose the worst thing was he was so inept in the ring. He was very, very slow. His forearm chops to the Undertaker looked like they couldn't knock over a feather. Yeah, it was bad. It was very, very, very bad. He was the epitome of it was a good idea, and then the bell rang.
Exactly. And if you want to see something else that's actually kind of funny, you can check out Giant Gonzalez when he was El Gigante in WCW. And I think it's Wrestle War 91 when Sid damn near kills Brian Pillman in the War Games match.
We've covered that.
Yeah,
and
he comes out to check if Pillman's okay, and it's just
and carries him to the back
like a little baby,
and that's the end of the match. I mean, props to the guy for making the effort, but Jesus Christ, he was an awful wrestler.
Yes, sadly he died very young as well, wasn't he? In his early 40s.
Yeah, I think
heart
he had
issues and diabetes issues and stuff like that. And he died penniless as well, didn't he? In Argentina, Harvey Whippleman was apparently sending him money to sort of help keep his family going, and that by the time he passed away. So much respect to Harvey Whippleman there. But yeah, that suit, that gimmick, those matches, lame.
Very, very much lame.
Indeed. Should we have a quick check on the chat then, Magsy, before we jump into this week's non-wrestling topic, Bird?
Yeah, let's. A lot of talk about me and my pick about Moppe. We're getting R.I.P. Moppe, R.I.P. Moppe, R.I.P. Matt Bell. I didn't actually realise Matt Bell had passed away. That's a shame. Matt saying WWF ran missing ad signs for Moppe on the milk cartons. For real, yeah, remember that, Matt. That's a good spot. I believe Moppy Q Mopperson is in fact an ancestor of Borty McBoatface. I mean, Moppy Q Mopperson, what a cool name. More is saying, I'm glad our non-wrestling fan friend fitches it on tonight. Being a wrestling fan is weird.
It is weird.
Dan, it is. Why are we middle-aged blokes talking about this kind of bullshit?
A mop.
It's a mop and a pubed costume man.
Who was 7.5 foot tall.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So Matt said, it's like I'm speaking Smurf with mop. I miss Mop, I've got to say. Nobody wants to hear the screams of a mop. 100% sounds like the title of an episode of the Morton Fit Show. Copyright, do not be stealing that for an episode of the Morton Fit Show. And if you haven't listened to the Morton Fit Show, definitely go and listen to it because it's absolutely ridiculous. To be fair, Mop had more charisma than Perry Saturn. That's probably true. He was more wooden than the Mop.
Yes.
He got that mop over. He absolutely did. Sadly, like most wrestling relationships, Perry and Moppy Too Hot is split after Perry was caught balls deep in a carpet steamer. That sounds like a Mark Henry story, which I'm sure that'll end up being in a Hall of Lane in the near future. Mark Henry and sexual chocolate. Jesus Christ. Sharon, picking you up on your Tic Tac smuggling. Ed Fraz in the chat. Hello, Ed. How are you, sir? Nice to see you here. Matt, like I said, confirming that Giant Gonzalez should have been in the Hall of Fame before that. Absolutely,
I was surprised, to be honest, when I found he wasn't.
And then Matt, Andy from Bang Bang saying we all lost that night. Yeah, we did. It was but that was the showcase of the Immortals, and it was so damn bad that year. And Dan Griffin, it was Mae Young's carpet steamer. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ.
Oh, dear. Shall we then jump into our non-wrestling topic this week, Magsy?
Let's go for it.
I almost feel like we need a jingle there. Do you know what I mean? I almost feel like we need something. Maybe I'll make something this week. Or maybe I'll finish the live, go to bed, completely forget about it, and have this exact same conversation with you next week.
Yeah, maybe. I'm sure I'll wake up to a WhatsApp message of you saying exactly the same thing next week.
Yes, most likely, mate, most likely. Our non-wrestling topic this week was actually suggested by your good self, Mr. Mags, and it was basically looking at superheroes and...
Why did you say that as if you were surprised? Like, you actually came up with an idea.
No. I'm just saying it was your suggestion, because my suggestion wasn't as good as this, so we went with this. That's
Your suggestion is pretty good, and I'm sure it'll turn up next week. But I actually...
Saves me having to think for one next week then. No, I'll sign.
There we go.
Yes, it's about superheroes. If you were to be a superhero, what would your superpower be? What would your superhero name be? Would you have an arch nemesis, and what would their name be as well? And what would be your kryptonite? All that sort of stuff, and we can get as silly and as serious as you may well please. We have quite a few decent responses, Magsy. I've got a couple on WhatsApp again, which I'll save till the very end, so you're not messing around looking for them.
We got one incredibly weird one from our good friend Matt at Five Nerds Go. That was quite... He skirts the line. I absolutely love Matt because he has no filter. He just comes out of his brain and he comes out of his mouth and he has no filter whatsoever. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get to that one.
We will get to that definitely. But we start with our good buddy Morty at Morty Junior 5 on Twitter. He says, "I'd be Expando, kind of like Mr. Fantastic, but it's just my waist that expands. My arch nemesis would be diabetes."
Brilliant.
Oh dear.
Brilliant.
Dan Griffin saying Morty was stealing his ideas there. But yes, he got in there really quick, Morty, to be fair. No,
he sat by his computer waiting. That's why I'm
waiting for the tweet to go out.
That's the joy of the CWF, because they're so supportive and yeah, they make the show. They really do make the show.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Speaking of Dan Griffin, we have him next. He says here, "I would be the demotivator. My superpower would be rampant cynicism, and I'd use it to convince the bad guys their plans have no chance of working. My kryptonite would be blind faith, and my nemesis would be Captain Optimism, a being so convinced everything they do is right, they can't see they're being evil or manipulated to do evil." Fair enough, mate. I mean, a being so convinced everything they do is right that they can't see how they're being evil or manipulating. I think I've dated people like that, to be fair.
I like the way he started it by saying, "I would be the demotivator," and then explained how he is in real life. So that should be, "I am the demotivator."
Do you think he is? Do you think he is demotivator? And he's just
I think he's got the best rampant cynicism in our group of friends on Twitter. So yeah, I think he's very much could be the demotivator.
I mean, with demotivator, what sort of gear would that guy wear? I mean, obviously superheroes wear like the trunks and the cape and all that. I'm imagining something very grey and beige, you know?
like Bastion Bugger.
Yeah, oh yeah, there we go.
Like
not
pants
like Bastion Bugger, that exact outfit.
Yeah, or pants that he's just worn for like 3 days because he's not motivated enough to bother changing. Or like pants where he gets 4 days wear of them because he'll turn them around, then inside out, and then around again.
Yeah. I mean, if you had to do that, which way round do you go? Do you want, because obviously at some stage you have your arse up against your balls and your balls up against your arse. Do you know what I mean? Which way round would you want arse to go across your balls first, or what? How would it work?
I mean, either way, you are eventually going to have skid marks on your balls, are you? So.
And there's the quote for this week. Either way, eventually you're going to have skid marks on your balls. Oh, dear me. Sharon in the chat there. Grey sweatpants and a dirty T-shirt. I think she's just describing what I wear at home, to be fair.
And Dan, it would be Mr. Motivator singlet, but monochrome and covered by a dressing gown. Brilliant.
And when you need to fly, so you need a cape, you just undo the dressing gown so it hangs loose behind you.
And then realise you haven't got the singlet on and you've just flashed your bits to everybody.
Yeah, which would, potentially unmotivate, which would be the
It would very much more unmotivate with grey Crocs. Jesus.
Just to finish off the ensemble. Fantastic stuff.
With socks on as well. Socks on and grey Crocs. Fantastic. Grey socks, obviously.
Yes, of course. At 5 Nerds Go, Mags.
Oh, Jesus. Are we doing this one?
Yeah.
Do you not want to skip over this?
No, but
I don't want to show it up on the screen. This is definitely all Matt from Five Nerds Go. He does not speak for chain wrestling. We do not share his thoughts.
No, this is
And
Matt
with
from
that-
5 Nerds Go. His superhero name, nothing to do with us. His superhero name would be Dr. Nonce. His superpower would be disguising himself as a bush. His arch nemesis, British wrestling. I got a kick out of that one, considering how many people were exposed for, shall we say, poor behaviour. And his kryptonite would be a WWE paycheck. And we've got another one here that I don't quite get.
I knew as soon as I saw it, I thought I'm gonna have to explain this to Sarah.
Yeah, go on, and you run through it then, because I don't know.
No, I want you to go through it first, and then I'll explain it, and then it'll be like, oh,
Okay. If I don't actually make that noise now, I'm going to be disappointed in your explanation, just so we're clear.
okay.
Superhero name, Xiong Mao Man. Is that right? Have I got that right? Superpower,
You may have.
super adorableness.
Okay.
Arch nemesis is gravity, and his kryptonite is bamboo. I don't get it at all.
So there's lots of clues in there that should tell you what it is. So bamboo, very cute.
Oh, is it like a panda?
Yeah, Jiang Mao means panda in Chinese.
So he's Panda Man.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it translated in English to bear cat.
Okay.
But he would be a panda man.
Huh.
Because his arch nemesis would be gravity because they're big old fat bears.
Okay. I mean, but they climb trees, don't they, pandas?
Do they?
I don't know, do they? Oh, I'm thinking of koalas, aren't I?
Jesus. They couldn't be any different in the bear kingdom than the smallest bear.
No. Bullshit, right? They couldn't be any more different. They're both fucking bears, and they look the same.
Well, a koala bear is not actually a bear. It's just called a koala bear. It's a marsupial.
What?
It doesn't matter.
What was Mantor?
Mantor was a very sad wrestler who got lumbered with a shit gimmick.
Okay. Anyway.
Brilliant.
Stevo, at Total Stevo on Twitter. We have a few here from him. Excuse me. We have, of any subject, superheroes have never been something he's particularly interested in. Again, similar to me, I suppose, Magsy. It's never really been my thing, I guess. But, however, to be boring, and I know Mags will rule this one out, but I've always wanted to be the Invisible Man. Without wanting to go too dark, as someone that gets unwanted attention, it would be great to go about my business without anyone knowing I'm there. I've no idea what other uses invisibility would have. Yeah, come on. Everyone has those thoughts, don't they?
he does mention it. He does.
Yes. Other than standard going into women's changing rooms, or even more perverse, I'm not going to go there, he says. Now thinking I could use invisibility for the bad, going into luxurious shops around London after they're closed, i.e. Harrods, Selfridges, etc., and eat the beautiful food, get free travel wherever, play pranks on people I hate, experience the zoo at night, especially exploit my superpower for things I can't have now. My kryptonite would be, as I privately messaged you the other day, the overconsumption of food and getting diarrhea. So my kryptonite would be shitting myself. It's basically what he's trying to say there. And if you're invisible, can you imagine that sight? If you don't realise the invisible man's next to you.
You just see a river of diarrhea coming out.
Just sort of, 3.5 foot in the air, just pouring out like a tap.
But surely the diarrhea would be invisible because you would think his food is invisible. Otherwise, you'd see it going all the way through his body.
Well, because when it goes in his body, if If you imagine the Invisible Man eating an apple, then right,
Okay.
you'd see the apple floating up, wouldn't you, to like his invisible face in his invisible hand,
And then he bites it, and then
But then it's when he bites it and swallows it, it goes, doesn't it? So then when he shits that apple back out, you'll see the shit again.
Yeah, that makes sense. You actually have made sense for once.
And it's about an invisible man having a poo.
Well, it's worrying that it's about diarrhea. You worked out the science of invisible diarrhea.
I didn't even need to work it out, mate. It was just there.
It just came naturally. It just like diarrhea. It just comes naturally.
Oh dear. My arch nemesis, Steve continues, would be the police, as they'd always be looking for me. And before Si says, "But you're invisible," I have to wear clothes out and about. He says, I could always escape by removing all the clothes, but running down Oxford Street with no shoes on, forget it. But if you wore flip-flops, you're less likely to be seen, aren't you? Because there's less shoe to a flip-flop.
But it's also hard to run in a flip-flop.
Yeah, but but you've not got many options, mate, have you? Do you know what I mean? Work with me here.
I mean, but if you're invisible, you don't really need to run. I mean, you could literally take all your clothes off and walk away in whatever direction because no one can see where you're going. So you don't need to run.
Walk away. You can literally just strip off and just stand there.
Well, no, because the first thing they're going to do is try and make a grab for where the clothes are. If you stood there, you're going to get found. But take two or three steps to either direction, and there you flummoxed everyone. So
yeah, look at that. See, there we go. Sorted. Or unless, of course, you have explosive diarrhea, and then you can get seen straight away. And that's why it's his kryptonite, I guess.
Like Hansel and Gretel, except instead of breadcrumbs, you're leaving brown river water.
Yeah, just puddles of poo. Connor knows soccer at Connor knows footy on Twitter. Connor says, name, not so super Connor. Superpower would be flight. Weakness, he can't land once he's in the air.
That tickled me when, I mean, obviously it's not the most in-depth superhero name, but the bit of his weakness absolutely tickled me. So once he starts flying, he has to permanently fly forever because he cannot land, or does he kind of like crash land, like the most idiotic superhero ever, where he just tumbles into the floor?
I don't know. But I suppose as well, if you can control your flying, you could like just fly, but only like a millimeter off the ground, and just be like, you're walking anyway,
so pretend you're walking, just fly like you're walking.
Yeah, there you go.
Brilliant.
Sorted. Yeah, there you go. Cheers, Connor. Figured it out for you, pal. Scottish Danny here, literally just chucking us
playing the game.
He'd have saying time travel would be the ultimate. You ain't got to convince me, mate. I got 2 podcasts about time travel. Bloody love the shit. Not that I've ever done it, obviously, but I asked, was it for good or for evil? And he said, obviously, it would be for evil with his Funaki t-shirt there, which is brilliant stuff. That t-shirt is cool.
It is.
But then I carried on. What would you do? For what evilness would you do if you could time travel?
Hiding people's remotes was your option.
Yeah, I got confused between the Invisible Man and the time travel thing, yeah.
Yeah, but hiding remotes doesn't make them invisible, it just makes them out of sight.
Which is kind of invisible, isn't it, out of sight? You don't see it, so...
Okay. It doesn't, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
No, of course, but that's the same as the Invisible Man, because you can't see it. Doesn't mean he's not there, does it?
True. Something more evil than hiding the remotes is taking the batteries out and putting them in the wrong way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Turning people's alarm clocks off.
Or changing the time on their alarm clock so they think that they're late.
Oh, yeah. That episode of The Office when they convinced Dwight that tomorrow is Saturday, when it's actually Friday.
I don't watch the US Office.
That was good. They convinced it. He came into work, and you know sometimes you lose track of your days, don't you? He came into work, and the first thing in the morning, he just made a passing comment about it being Friday when it's actually Thursday. So they spent the whole day convincing him it was Friday. They changed the calendar, they changed the clocks, they changed his phone, everything. So then the next day, there's a scene of him running in about 11:30, half dressed, and all this sort of stuff because he thought it was Saturday. It tickles me, mate. It tickles me.
Brilliant.
The last couple I have here, Mr. Mags, are via WhatsApp, so save you looking up and down for them. Mr. Matt Willis, we have here, and he says, I have some superhero nominations for you. Some are silly, one is semi-serious. Superhero name, Captain Oversell. Superpower, the ability to oversell like Shawn Michaels. Okay.
I mean, Shawn Michaels is already doing it, so...
Hang on, Shawn Michaels doesn't oversell. That's very, branding comment, isn't it? Shawn Michaels doesn't oversell all the time. He oversold at SummerSlam against Hogan because Hogan was being a dick. He doesn't oversell all the time, does he?
But it was great overselling.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was
comical
really funny to
overselling.
watch. Yeah. Arch nemesis would be Boringo, the guy who makes everything dull, and his kryptonite would be maths homework. I bet my girls could sympathise with that. They're not a particularly big fan of maths homework. Another one he has for us here. The name is Hound Dog. Superpower is his super smell. So does that mean he can smell really well, or he smells terrific if somebody else was to sniff him?
I mean, both. Why not both? Can you imagine having the power of a keen sense of smell and you also smell amazing? You'd just have a you'd be like your own brand.
Be like, this must
especially
be
if your farts as well. If your farts smell amazing,
like blast out Lynx Africa or something. Yeah, just walking around going.
of all the smells, the chaviest smell of all, Lynx Africa.
Yeah. Or all you can do is your own super smell and your own super smell. So you just walk around all day thinking this must be what it's like to be in the CK1 factory. Just
I smell amazing.
I smell like 1997 and it's fantastic. Hound Dog's arch nemesis, excuse me, would be Sergeant Lamppost. His kryptonite would be if he sees anyone he knows, he has to sniff their butt.
But he doesn't need to worry because he'd still be covered in a cloud of his own amazing smell.
Yeah, fair point. But I mean, with his super smell, if he got right up against someone's arsehole, it may outbalance the Lynx Africa and CK1, mate.
It may well do. I mean, I don't know how good at covering up the smell of shit Lynx Africa actually is.
I suppose he then, the superhero Hound Dog, would be fantastic for tracking down the Invisible Man. Because if he's going around all the time with a dirty arsehole, Hound Dog can find him.
Matt speaks for us all yet again. Sir, stop overthinking it.
I will never stop overthinking it and going into these things because that's what makes the show. The fact that we just talk bollocks for 2 hours and you lot seem to enjoy it. We have another one from Matt here. Name Arcade. Superpower, ability to finish any arcade game on a single £1 coin perfectly. Would have been 50p, but they've gone up in price, he puts here.
Thatcher's Britain.
Yeah, bastards. The arch nemesis would be Mr. Prize Guy, the guy who exchanges tickets for crappy prizes. And his kryptonite would be if he ever ends up on the coin pushers, because he will never leave, as you can't finish that. That's a good point, actually. Just constantly on a loop playing that game over and over again.
Such money makers, those coin pushers.
Yeah, definitely. And now for the semi-serious one, which is a shame as I was enjoying writing the silly ones, he says. Name Blizzard. Power, control over ice and snow, including the ability to produce it at will. Arch nemesis. Solar, a human cursed by the spirit of Apollo, the deity of the sun. Kryptonite, if he gets too cold, he will freeze himself completely solid. Fair enough. He's also created a super villain group in the vein of Spectre or Hydra, which is Spectre's from Bond, isn't it, and stuff,
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Hydra, what's that from?
Is that not the Avengers?
I don't know. I imagine somebody will let us know in the chat, so. And he has here, creative, hateful, and intelligent nemesis, which really enjoys selling things like Italian Neapolitan Galetto. What does that say?
Ass cream.
Oh, chain wrestling. It says chain wrestling. Ha! I'm reading that down. I'm thinking, I don't know what that says, but it says, yeah, it says chain wrestling. I'll show you that. If people can make it out, just where are we going? There we go. This makes for fantastic audio on the podcast version later in the week.
It actually does well. Oh, great work, Matt.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Making out things like this is what I do weekly on Dungeons and Junkies. Feel free to plug on Visionaries Global Media. And that's where he
cut
drops
that out.
Mic,
Can we cut that out, please?
So actually, we were speaking about Dungeons and Junkies the other day via WhatsApp. And on the way home from work today, I listened to the first part and half of the second part of the Halloween special they did. Now, Dungeons and Dragons isn't something I always understand. It's not my bag. But the fact that you listening to these people playing these roles, it's fantastic. It's absolutely awesome, you know, and they all are having a great time, which makes me enjoy listening to them, enjoying the game they're playing. So yeah, go and check it out. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Oh, it says, what the hell is Sard's phone background? It looks like a ball sack.
It's not a ball sack. I will show you the background on my phone in just a moment. It is not a ball sack.
Right.
And the last one is from my mate Ari. So everyone brace yourselves as always. He says his superhero name would be Captain Megaballs. He can spunk at Mach 5, apparently.
And at will.
And at will, yep. His arch nemesis would be Madame Barton Flaps. And his kryptonites would be lagers over 5% because they fuck him up. I asked him about Madame Barton Flaps, and he said Barton Street Hooker Queen. Now, Barton Street is a very rough area in Gloucester, famous for, shall we say, ladies
hookers.
of the night. Yes, there we go. But yes, Captain Megaballs and his constant battles with the Barton Street Hooker Queen, Madame Barton Flaps. There we go. And I will show you now very quickly my background on my WhatsApp. I don't know if you can make it out on there. But basically, it's another picture of my cat, Lemmy. That's him as younger on my WhatsApp.
Oh, did he actually look cute?
Yeah, he did. He was nice by there. It's on my WhatsApp, so I can't bring it up because there's messages all in the way of it. You can probably make it out a bit clearer on that one there. There we go. But that's there. There we go. That's it. My cat Lemmy, who I love dearly. He's amazing. However, he hates me.
Well, cats tolerate humans. I don't think they hate. They just tolerate them.
Well, this is it. But no. He loves everyone else. He loves Sharon especially.
So he might just hate you then.
Oh, he hates me totally. He wants nothing to do with me. He'll let Liv pick him up and give him a cuddle. He goes and sees Sharon. He only likes me if I'm making a toasty because he knows I'll throw him a couple of bits of Hamlet.
Wow.
I'm basically...
Lemmy doesn't even tolerate Sarge.
No,
Sharon is confirmed.
Doesn't tolerate me at all. The other day, I was having a bit of a rant about it because he was coming up to me and like, you know, a cat sort of rub against your legs and that when they're trying to be affectionate and stuff. He was doing that.
When they want something.
Yeah, basically. And I was like moaning and bitching, saying, you're only nice to me when you want something and all that. And Sharon said I sounded like somebody who was in an abusive relationship.
You're being mentally tormented by your cat.
Yeah, because I always do end up giving him treats and stuff, and then he just fucks off until he wants more. So yeah, I see.
Amazing,
I see a point,
amazing.
Yes, but there we go.
So,
anyway,
so essentially, you're pussy whipped.
Yeah, quite literally. There we go. Anyway, there we go. Fantastic stuff, as always, from everybody in the CWF. Thank you so much for sending in your non-wrestling topic answers, retweeting, and so on. It was awesome, Magsy, wasn't it?
It was. Absolutely amazing answers.
Should we have a quick check through the chat once again, and then we'll talk a little bit of graps, I suppose?
Yeah, I don't want to put my one forward. Twice in a week, twice in 2 weeks.
I did it again, didn't I? And do you know what's even worse? I've not. You've got your. I've completely forgot.
Wow.
I've got
have you got your?
Talk about it. Right, go on.
Okay. Have you got your running plan up this time though?
Nah.
That's the issue. You're very forgetful.
I'll bring it up now. There we go. And it literally says here non-wrestling topic Twitter, non-wrestling topic Mags and Si. So yeah, should have left that up, shouldn't I?
Anyway, I've got one.
Go on then. What's yours?
It's probably going to be the most obvious one. So my superhero name would be the Stiffener.
Okay.
Now,
They drink out
not for
my nose, then.
not for the reason that you think. So, my superpower would be filling the bubbles in bubbly chocolate. So then I would be making the chocolate stiffer. My arch nemesis, or nemesis, because there's more than one, are the worldwide conglomerates of confectionery, Nestle and Mars, Cadbury's, just all these companies that try and steal our money by filling their chocolate with essentially free air.
See, sorry, you say that they try and steal our money. You know, you haven't got to buy it, don't you? Do you go
No.
to the shop, buy an Aero, buy into it, and go, "Oh, the bastards! They got me again."
But chocolate is addictive. It gives you those dopamine rushes, so it's kind of like crack or heroin, where you don't want it, but you've got to have it. And my kryptonite would be watching people enjoy bubbly chocolate. So, yeah. And I think to the rest of the world, I would actually be the villain, but I'd be the kind of villain where I think I'm doing it for a noble cause. So I'm kind of like Bane in this situation. Everyone hates me, but I'm doing stuff to make their life better.
Fair enough, mate. This is it, Mags and bubbly chocolate. It's just like an ongoing. What we now, episode 80, 84, 85, something like that in total.
Episode
100,
47 of the live version as well.
Yeah. So okay, so we did 32, I think, of the non-live. So what would that be? 80,
Right.
isn't it?
Well, 79.
Okay, well, yeah. So and this has been a long-running theme for all of these
Oh, the
episodes.
kryptonite! No!
Sharon in the chat there, I just like a whisper gold, and it was marvelous. Yeah, she does like whisper
Chocolate
gold,
is like crack. I'm eating a twirl right now. Which a twirl is that's. Oh no, I'm thinking of a Spira. The twirls are not too bad because they are wrapped in chocolate, aren't they? So
They don't make spirals anymore, do they?
yeah, they float on. They almost would be on my hit list, but the fact is that the whole isn't encased in chocolate. It's actually like it's almost like a tube. So they qualify as a decent chocolate.
Yeah, but they don't. But they're not around no more. They're one of those that got discontinued, aren't they? Which is a shame.
No.
'Cause I didn't mind the spiral.
Yeah, they were amazing. Yeah, they were good. Spiras were really good.
Oh, there we go then. See, I didn't do it, mate. Because I racked my brains and I just couldn't think of anything. Oh, comment there. Dan Griffin, the stiffener surely has to team up with Captain Mega Balls. You're thinking stiffener in a slightly different way, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. There we go. I didn't have a superhero or anything like that, mate. I just couldn't think of one. You know, I do have something that popped up on the television the other day that is, I suppose, good guy versus bad guy kind of thing, and I thought I could do that. And that
So
was
hit
really,
us with it.
I will. There was an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that show. Was on the TV, and one of the detectives was drinking with a detective who was a bit of a bad policeman, a crooked cop. And the idea was they want some information out of them, so they were plying them with drink to get them to loosen up and say the information. The problem was the good police officer couldn't handle their booze and was absolutely annihilated, whereas the person they were trying to get drunk was stone cold sober because they could handle their booze. And I looked at that and I turned to the wife and I said, you know what? I could do that. I could sit there and because I can handle mid-drink, I could sit there long enough to get information out of somebody. And it's a very niche thing that the New York Police Department required on that particular day. You know, but yeah, if they called me up, I'd be willing to help, mate. That would be my superpower.
That sounds less of a superpower and more something you should just stick on your CV.
Well, I can drink a fuck ton.
I can drink anybody under the table.
Oh, I don't know about anybody, but I'd always give it a try. I suppose you can't. You know,
I'm a quick learner.
I've got a high level of tenacity with that. So. Right, and we have one very, very late, and this is breaking. This is, mate, breaking. We received a tweet a few minutes ago from UTT Rob saying, oops, sorry, I missed this one. So as we were talking, I tweeted him back and said, you know, we're still live. We're talking about it right now. Send it in.
So here we have Rob at UTT Rob. Thank you so much, my friend, for sending it into the show. He says, the ability to read minds, the ultimate negotiation advantage. Good luck with the show. Cheers, Rob. Appreciate that, mate. Yeah, can you imagine? I don't know, being able to read minds would be fantastic on one aspect, but then always knowing what people are thinking sometimes, because you wouldn't want them to know you had that power because it would ruin it.
But you would be able to tell if they're talking shit, or thinking shit about you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'd end up falling out with people.
Yeah, totally. But you can't tell them why you're cross with them, because then it exposes you for having this power.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a very double-edged sword of a power.
It is. It is. It'd be good if you could just kind of turn it on and off, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just read demand as and when you want, instead of it just being automatic.
Yeah. Like on What Women Want, that film, wasn't it, with Mel Gibson? Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he's able to listen to all the women's minds now, isn't he? Yeah.
Yes.
So there we go. Oh,
and he steals the idea for a NARC advert.
I don't remember that bit.
Yeah, he's an advertiser, or he works for an advertising company, and he steals Helen. Is it Helen Hunt, the actress? Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
He steals her idea.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Fair enough. I just thought he was just listening to lasses talk about him, so he could take him out and stuff.
No, he doesn't. It doesn't have. It's not a superhero film. He doesn't have that power all the time.
I'm not saying it's a superhero. No, I'm just. I didn't remember the advertising bit. That was it's got to be 25 years old now. I don't think I've seen it since it was released. So
yeah,
the fact that I remembered a film, the fact that I've seen a film, should surely amaze everybody.
The fact that I have seen a film. Brilliant.
There we go. Magsy, shall we talk a little? Well, not a little bit of wrestling. We've got 2 matches to cover this week. Shall we talk quite a bit of wrestling?
Yes, I mean, we could have gone through the chat, but never mind.
Let's get ready to rumble!
You are all fingers and thumbs today, sir.
Yeah, but we went through the chat, didn't we?
We did. I mean, we didn't. We did earlier, but we didn't after the non-wrestling topic.
I said, let's go through the chat, and then you had a little
Yeah,
salt.
you did.
I didn't, yeah, okay, well, let's go through the chat.
No, you've ruined it now. Sorry, CWF. We've got to crack on, so all your messages here are all irrelevant. We're not going to give you any attention, and it's all Simon's fault. What an absolute jackass.
Oh, my goodness. We could go through the chat. We could, mate. But okay, we'll get on with the wrestling talk.
We do have 2 matches to cover.
We do. Where do you want to go first, bud?
Well, we might as well finish off the Triple H story, I suppose.
Okie doke. Let me just make sure I've got the right notes. There we go. Look at that.
Wow,
my
organised.
little stack of paper. Yeah. Well, it's 2 stacks of paper, mate. It's not that organised.
Knowing you probably had it underneath the Ric Flair and Perfect match.
No, they were side by side, bud. They were side by side. I'm not saying that they're in the right order, but they were side by side. I probably got the finish on top. And yes, Triple H versus Chris Jericho. Well, the poll, first of all, ended 50-50, which is kind of weird. Because Dan Griffin said, I hope it ends 50-50. And then it happened.
He did. He Jedi man tricked this poll to it be a 50-50 split.
And at one stage, on the day of the poll ending, I noticed it was 50-50. So I tweeted that out there and said to Dan, this is funny. And then one of the options went a few votes ahead. But then by the time it closed, it was back level again. So
wow. Dan and his multiple accounts.
Yeah, it's literally only Dan that voted, just over and over again.
Now you know his real superpower. So he isn't the demotivator, he is the mediator. Make sure everything stays level.
The mediator. I like that. That's good. Yes. So one of the options that drew this week's poll was, I suppose, the continuation of our look at Triple H and his comeback.
Hopefully end.
Hopefully the end, yes. We don't want to go into anything else.
He's having another reign of terror on Chain Wrestling recently.
Yeah, yeah. We don't want to go into like maybe next year's WrestleMania, for example, because there's a
Definitely. Well,
little
we
bit of
may do.
racism. Just a little bit of racism. Triple H versus Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 18 for the Undisputed title. Now, this obviously is the same show where The Rock faced Hogan, and that's kind of what WrestleMania 18 is remembered for. But this match here, a lot of people, when you put it forward, Magsy, last week, were saying that this was potentially the best match on the card.
Yeah,
I didn't remember it being that good, so I was quite intrigued to watch it. What are your thoughts watching it back for the show this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned last week that according to Shaggy Dave, this was the best match on the card. I know we spoke about Jericho and Triple H petitioning Vince to not put this match on last because they all knew that Rock and Hogan was going to draw, and following that was always going to be hard. Even with the kind of like the palate cleanser of the women's title match in between. But going back and watching it, this is two wrestlers at the very top of their game. And Triple H coming back off the injury to being arguably better than he was before the injury. And Jericho kind of shedding all that pressure of coming into the company and not being the big star from the beginning to being the first ever undisputed champion. There was a lot on these two guys to perform, and I think they did very, very admirably. I think it's a really, really good match and very underappreciated, I think, because of its position coming after the Hogan and the Rock match.
Okay. So when you watched this back then, this would be interesting, I suppose. When you watched this back, we've got two matches to watch. Did you watch them today?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you watch them both together, I'm assuming, yeah?
No. Like
Not at the same
together,
time.
like at the same time.
No,
I
not
watched
on
them
one
back to back.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Why have you got to be such a pedantic little prick? You know exactly what I meant.
Like I had one on my computer and one on the TV,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Trying to make notes on both.
yeah, like a game of tennis.
Yeah. So which one did you watch first?
I watched the Flair and Perfect one first.
Yeah, and me. Okay. Now that's going to be interesting, I think, how we rate this, if it would have made any difference if we watched it the other way around, potentially. This match here, I enjoyed it. It was very good. But I don't think it was as good as people were leading me to believe last week.
Okay.
But I mean, we'll get into it. I mean, maybe it's just my dislike of Triple H. I don't know. 'Cause I'm not a massive Triple H fan. And by this, his comeback, fantastic. Winning the Rumble, great. By this point, because of the crappy storyline with the dog and Jericho and Steph and all that sort of nonsense, and the fact that I suppose I stayed up and watched Rock Hogan. So by the time this came around, I was already kind of burnt out.
Yeah.
I was kind of over it all by the time this match started, I guess. And I kind of had that same feeling when I put it on today.
Really? I remember, I vaguely remember watching it live and having the exact same feelings, almost as if I was sapped from the emotion of the Hogan and Rock stuff. So yeah, I can understand having that feeling at the time of almost you are worn out, you spent as a wrestling fan. But going back and watching it, and maybe it's because I have a lot of love for Jericho. Maybe that's biased to me, and I thought it was a really, really good match. And watching this second actually made me appreciate it more, and we'll come to why when we talk about the Flair and the Perfect match. I really enjoyed this match. I enjoyed it a lot more than I remember enjoying it at the time.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That side of things. Yeah, totally. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it more than I watched it. Than I enjoyed it first time round. But I still kind of had those vibes of okay. I was expecting a bit more, maybe.
Yeah, I suppose. Maybe it's a case of they didn't go all out because they had no point to go all out. Because the fans had already blown their wad over Hogan, and no matter what Triple H and Jericho did, they were never going to top that. So if that's the case, why not just play safe? Why not just make sure you get through the match without any injuries and go on to the Raw after?
Was there a rematch, like the Backlash or whatever followed it up? Was there a rematch? I can't remember there being a rematch.
I vaguely remember they did a last man standing match, but
Okay.
I can't remember if it's in this storyline or if it's afterwards. Usually after WrestleMania title match, there is some sort of rematch, but I cannot for the life in me remember. I'm actually going to look now.
Oh, while I should do that, then I'll give a quick shout out to Millwall Chris, who has just DM'd the show's Twitter here, saying he can't make tonight, guys, recovering from having a wisdom tooth out. So, yeah, no worries, mate.
Some of the worst pain toothache. So hope you get well soon, sir.
Yes, hope you check us out on the audio version later in the week, mate, so you actually hear us wishing you well. Otherwise, this moment now is kind of all pointless, really.
Yeah, kind of mute.
Yeah, but there we go. Yeah, thinking of you, bud. Hope everything's okay. Yeah, did they have a rematch, mate?
I'm having a look now. They went into the brand extension, didn't they, afterwards?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
He did have a rematch. Triple H beat Stephanie and Chris Jericho in a triple threat on an episode of Raw.
Matt Willis literally just mentioned that in the chat as well. So, yeah. Good stuff. Okie doke. And we'll get into the match a little bit now then, I suppose. WrestleMania 18, I scanned through the show before watching this match here. Literally just skipping through moments. I didn't watch any actual wrestling, just skipping through moments and so on. There was a lot of live band performances at WrestleMania 18, wasn't there?
This
Saliva did a couple.
Drowning Pool was on there as well. Yep.
Yeah. And I don't remember this happening, but Drowning Pool played Triple H to the ring.
Triple H's song. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I say Triple H's song. It was a totally new song.
Yeah, I mean it's still the game, isn't it? It's like they've covered
the background music. Yeah.
So
it was WWE were in this push of being in with the new metal crowd at the time. I remember. I think the actual theme music for the event was Limp Bizkit.
Right.
And yeah, almost everyone on the card had a forcible entry song because that was the CD they was pushing. And I remember at the time thinking that CD was actually really good. Some of the remixed and kind of reimagined theme musics were pretty good from that forcible entry album.
Yeah, definitely. It was Stacy Keibler's Legs on there by ZZ Top and stuff like that. Yeah, good album. It's actually a good album. Yeah, this didn't do it for me though, mate. I know I'm incredibly biased because Motorhead, but nah, this didn't do it for me at all.
It was not the worst. I think the issue that I had with it was Triple H's entrances are about the Motorhead music and about the fan reaction, whether that's booing or whether that's cheering. The fact that they focused on the band so much, they kind of like cut out the crowd. So it was almost as if Triple H was coming out to crickets, which clearly he wasn't, because you could see the crowd like really excited because Triple H is there, but because they were focusing on the music, you couldn't hear that excitement from the crowd, which I think kind of took away from that entrance.
Yeah, no, I get that, mate. I get that. And then it kind of sounds funny when Jericho's music hits, because obviously you've got a live band there, and then Jericho's music hits, which isn't a live band. It's obviously the pre-recorded WWF Jericho music. And the production levels are obviously much different, aren't they? And it just all sounded a bit wonky to me. The whole entrances well, to be honest, the sound throughout the whole match sounded a bit wonky because famously this match is a bit quiet because the crowd are burnt out. They've been sat there for 3.5 hours already. They've watched Hogan rock and exhausted themselves. So this match here, the crowd are far from lively. But I didn't notice until watching it back today how Jim Ross on commentary is still doing his job. He's still massively selling moments and getting really enthusiastic and so on. And it was so weird hearing Jim Ross really getting into certain moves, certain spots, certain pinfall attempts, but the crowd not raising their volume as he raises the excitement levels in his voice. It was so strange.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is one of the few occasions at a WrestleMania where the kind of flow of the show is ruined by the big name match not being at the main event.
Yeah, very true, mate. Very true. But there we go. I mean, I'm of the mindset of the world title should always go on last. That's been my mindset for a long time. But there is always the odd exception, and this is blatantly one of them.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got the biggest icon in the business ever, and then the hottest kind of modern day wrestler, that should have gone on last. Because no matter, you could have had the biggest title match in the history of the business, and it's not going to outsell Rock versus Hogan. I mean, that was what the whole posters, that was what the whole advertising for the show was about. That should have been the main event.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree. So, I mean, when the match starts, we have standard Triple H soaking himself in water and all that. But all I can think of here, he looks incredibly orange and incredibly slimy.
Yeah, I mean, Triple H has always come out with very wet hair and the water dripping down him, but the fake tan he's got on makes it stand out so much. He looks like he's literally just got out of the shower. And he's just walked to the ring. Looks cool doing it, and he's looks like he's chiseled out of granite, but he looked extra slippy.
Yes, very true. Matt Willis and Danny in the chat there talking. Danny's saying he wished Saliva played King of My World for Chris Jericho down to the ring. And Matt Willis there saying he hadn't adopted that gimmick yet. It was 2002, end of 2002. Saliva performed that for him. We covered that, didn't we? The Elimination Chamber in the end. Yes, okay.
And then Matt also mentions that Drowning Pool did the theme song Superstar, and I think it was Saliva that did Superstar.
Saliva opened the show, and they opened it with a song called Superstar, I think. But they definitely opened WrestleMania, so you'd imagine that would have been the theme. So I think you're right, Magsy. Yeah. Okay. A couple of things that need noting, I suppose. Jericho comes out with McMahon, who she looks fair play. She looks great. And
I mean,
the
that
crowd,
catsuit, Jesus.
Yes, indeed. The crowd is very, very quiet, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Triple H is taped up on the quad, on the leg and the knee area, so that becomes I suppose one of the biggest story points they're trying to sell throughout the match is how much can Triple H's previously injured leg take, and Jericho attacks that on quite a few moments, quite a few opportunities, and Triple H.
The first few minutes of the match are almost kind of catch can style wrestling, where Jericho is going for that leg all the time, and Triple H is doing his best to avoid it and kind of counter. But I think Jim Ross makes a few comments mentioning that Jericho had attacked him on the Raw previous with a sledgehammer on the leg, and that he had a scan, and the doctor said that it was his quad was hanging on by a thread. So that Jim Ross, as good as ever in kind of pushing the stakes of the injury and how it could be an effect. Ironically, through the match, it's not really that much of an effect.
No, there we go. And very quickly, actually, speaking of injuries, I want to first of all apologise for interrupting the wrestling portion of the show with this. But I know a few people have been asking, Matt Willis and so on have been asking in the chat and so on in previous weeks about my daughter, Sharon, and I's daughter, Olivia, our little Livs. She's had a serious knee injury, like it dislocated and so on, and she'd been to the hospital and had it checked out and so on and so forth. And today she went back to the hospital to get another scan and more results, etc., and it turns out she's actually torn her ACL. So it's going to be
such a shame.
Quite a tricky long road back, but we got the absolute faith in her. We know she'll do brilliant and she'll come back even stronger. So, yeah, good luck with that, Luby Lou. We love you to bits. Not that you're listening, you're probably asleep by now, but there we go.
She'll be back to headline WrestleMania.
Exactly. She'll win the Royal Rumble. Yeah, but there we go. So I appreciate, and I know Liv appreciates, and Sharon definitely appreciates everyone that's asked after Liv and wished her well and so on. But that's the news we got today. So, yeah, hopefully as long as time as it can be, hopefully it'll pass quickly for her and she's back playing again soon. So Triple H and Jericho, I suppose they do try a few things very early on to get a reaction. To me, it comes across that way. Jericho gets launched off a top rope to the outside into the crowd barrier and so on. Now that seemed very early on to me for a Triple H match. Triple H, I think, is his matches. Sometimes they go too long for me, which is a criticism that I've seen of him quite a few times. But one thing that you tend to find with Triple H's matches, whether they're too long or whatever, they tend to always build in roughly the same way. The bigger spots, the more dramatic moments tend to come towards the end of the match, and from that aspect, overbooked or too long, whatever. From that aspect, you can't really criticize the guy. So seeing those sort of moments here early on, I was a bit like, oh, okay. Is that an attempt to get the crowd going again, do you think, Magsy? Or
yeah, I absolutely do think it was that. I think they both Jericho and Triple H tried to get the crowd excited again. It didn't really work, and it's a shame it didn't. But it's good that they could switch it up to at least make it a little bit fresh. One thing I did notice with that spot, and I don't remember noticing it before, was it was definitely a planned spot because you could see the gaffer tape marking the area where Jericho would land. Obviously, this was a time when WWE were covering the rails up with like that kind of foam. But you could see just exactly where Jericho hit. There's a long strip of gaffer tape, which is like where he was essentially meant to aim to land, I suppose. Whether that was extra padded that area or it was they kind of like told the crowd, we're going to be using this, so just be careful. I don't know, but yeah, it was definitely a planned spot.
I didn't notice that. Look at you little beady eye checking that out. Yeah, I didn't see that. I'm going to go back and look.
I saw it with my glasses.
With regards to the crowd, they do react, I think, a few times throughout the match to Stephanie McMahon. Whenever she's involved, I mean, there's a moment here where she gets kind of knocked off the ring apron by Jericho. There's a figure 4 by Triple H, and Stephanie claws at Triple H's eyes.
Yeah,
and the crowd react more to Stephanie than I think anything the guys in the ring do until pretty much the finish for me, really.
Yeah, I mean, Stephanie, if there's one thing she's good at, is drawing heat.
Yes,
and at this point, she was the only person really getting a reaction. Whether that's because of what she was wearing or because she was just the biggest bitch in the company, probably a little bit of both. But yeah, she was the only person getting any kind of reaction from the crowd.
Yeah, and there's a couple of scrappy moments as well for me. There's a moment where I don't know what the intention was, but Jericho is kind of running into the corner. He's been kind of thrown by Triple. I don't know if he's getting thrown into the buckles or if he's supposed to be getting some sort of slam on him and they haven't got hold of her properly. And Jericho almost kind of stumbles and falls into the corner quite badly and barely misses the turnbuckle. It could have been quite nasty. That was a bit crappy. And when they do the figure 4 spot around the ring post on the outside, that didn't look the best for me either. Yeah,
and there was another botch that I noticed when Triple H, he kind of botched a spine buster. So then they pretty much did the same move again and he hit a better one. So yeah, it wasn't a perfect match by any stretch of the imagination.
No, again, I'm sort of picking things apart here, and it's incredibly harsh of me because I couldn't do anything that these guys did. In any stretch of imagination.
But we're marks, so our opinion matters.
Yes, of course. Eventually, we get the table spot, Magsy, and that does get a reaction from the crowd. I don't think it. I'll say on par with Stephanie McMahon's nonsense, but I don't think even that's when we get. I mean, basically, Jericho is putting the walls of Jericho on the one table on Triple H, isn't he? Triple H fights out of it to try and pedigree Jericho. Jericho backdrops him off the one table through the other. And you can kind of see it coming because of the way they're setting up and where they're positioned and so on. But it's still a cool spot. I really liked it. But normally you see somebody go crashing through a table, especially a guy of Triple H's size. I mean, he's 260, 270, and he must be 6'5", 6'6", whatever he may well be. He's a massive fella. Goes crashing through a table like that. I would imagine more of a reaction from the crowd. I mean, they reacted in comparison to other things that was going on, but it still wasn't the sort of standard, that you get from a big table spot. I think was that the same for you, or did you hear it differently?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be the pattern of this match that on any other card, if this match had happened, I think it would have got a way bigger reaction. It's just that the crowd were emotionally drained. I did like this spot for the simple fact that it was set up. Well, half of it was set up pretty early into the match, with the Spanish announce table being cleared, and then we get the kind of the second part of the setup when Jericho clears the English broadcast table to basically make it a two table spot, which I always appreciate table spots when they're done right, and this was, I thought, really well done. And like I said, you can telegraph that it's going to happen because usually the person who sets up the table is the one who goes through it. But yeah, I thought that was a really good spot, and I really felt a bit of worry for Triple H because obviously he has just come back from an injury that's kept him out for 9 months, and he lands pretty hard. So very brave of him to take that spot. But I thought that this was a really good spot. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. It's a shame that it is such a shame. I'm here saying that the crowd was quiet for this, crowd was quiet for that. They only reacted to Stephanie. And this isn't a dig at Jericho or Triple H in any way, because they're doing good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You almost want the crowd to have more, but it's just the running order of the show. It's not the wind at the sails. That's it. The crowd have got nothing left. Oh dear. Never mind. Jericho goes for the walls of Jericho in the ring. I suppose not long after the table spot.
He goes for the line top first.
Oh yes, of course.
Triple H is able to kick out. Then I think Triple H goes for a pedigree, but Jericho elbows his knee, which takes him out, and then that leads to the Walls of Jericho.
Yes, and it's a long Walls of Jericho spot, isn't it? And we even get the. I always liken it to a sleeper hold when they're doing the arm, the 1, 2, 3, the dropping of the arm to see if he's passed out. But of course, it gets to 3, and he sort of keeps his arm up. Triple H, sorry. Eventually, he escapes this.
I do like, and Jericho's really good at it, when his opponent almost gets to the ring and then he walks and back to the middle of the ring. That is, I always enjoy that spot. But what I did really would like from Jericho in this was when he was shouting at Lebner to ask him whether he quits. Yeah, really putting the effort in and really kind of selling it by Jericho. And Triple H kind of powering up onto his forearms for the first part of the spot, and then pushing out onto his hands to essentially walk to the ropes and wrap his all elbow around the ropes to break the hold. Yeah, that looked good. But as we've said time and time again, the crowd were just sat on their hands for it. It didn't get hardly any reaction whatsoever.
Yes, I mean, Jericho brings a chair into the ring, but ends up getting DDT'd on it, which is quite a cool spot as well.
Yeah, and this point kind of annoyed me. And it wasn't the Jericho or the Triple H bit. It was how overselling Stephanie was at getting into the ring. Now, obviously, that's what the kind of distraction is, but she made so much of it, and it was so clear that she was just doing it to distract Earl Hebner that it was a bit of a dampener on it for me. But the way that Triple H used it to his benefit and DDTing Jericho onto the chair, it worked, but she just hammed it up a little bit too much for me.
Yeah, definitely. But the crowd, I think, here are starting to sort of get into it a bit more. And I don't know if it is because of the Steph involvement, the chair being involved as well.
I think the crowd wanted Steph to get a comeuppance because she had been a prick with Triple H since he'd come back.
Yeah, and she did. She ends up eating a pedigree, doesn't she? Getting drove into the canvas, you know?
I mean, I am not condoning violence on women. It's abhorrent. But the crowd, when Triple H grabbed her by the hair, that was the biggest reaction in this whole match. They wanted to see her get fucked up. So when he puts her in position for the pedigree, the crowd are really getting excited. And I thought, I remember thinking at the time, he's not going to do it. That's his wife. Jericho's going to interfere. Oh no, she takes that pedigree. She sells it as well, really well.
The ref has to roll her out the ring, doesn't he, and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. I suppose we kind of come to the finish then, and this I thought was a really good exchange. This was a really good way. I mean, I'm surprised, I suppose, initially that it's the last match of WrestleMania, and it took one pedigree by Triple H, 1, 2, 3, done. So I suppose we're seeing the beginning of that kind of reign of terror here, even as early as this. But the actual sequence I thought was really good because we have Jericho trying a pedigree first, don't we? Which is countered into like a slingshot kind of move by Triple H, and Jericho's thrown into the turnbuckles. But you know, as athletic as he is, he lands on the middle rope, and turns into almost, I suppose, a kind of crossbody attempt in a way, potentially, Magsy, for Triple H to give him the boot on the way down, nail the pedigree, win the match. And me explaining that probably makes it sound more simplistic than it actually is. But when you watch it, it's so smooth, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is kind of it almost feels like a finish out of nowhere. Like, and you kind of like, you described it perfectly earlier when you said a Triple H match is very formulaic, and we get the build. And because we haven't had that, when this finish comes, it does feel a little bit out of place, like almost they've been told, wrap it up, come, let's go to the finish, do it like really quickly. Whereas if this was booked in a standard Triple H match, we would have built to this. But watching the sequence, really kind of inventive, really kind of unique way for Triple H to get the pedigree on Jericho, and like I said, very athletic. The crossbody, I don't know what would have Jericho kind of gained from that. It kind of does stink a little bit of, I'm doing this because I know I'm getting the finisher hit, so it kind of telegraphs a little bit, but it was really cool to watch. Yeah, definitely. Out
of 10 then, Magsy, what are you thinking?
Yeah, certainly not the best match we've ever watched, but far from the worst. I think Shagger Dave kind of does over-egg it a little bit, but I'm going to go with a 7, I think.
Okay.
Above average.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. I agree. It's not the best thing we've ever watched, but it's not terrible either. I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm trying to view it from a wrestling standpoint, but the crowd does take away, as does the crowd when it gives towards the Hogan Rock match. It makes that match better. It makes this match maybe a bit worse potentially. I'm a bit lower than yourself. I've got 6.5 out of 10, but it's not much in between it. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at, mate. 6.5 out of 10.
Fair play.
We're
in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So then, our second option on the poll, which also won, lost, drew, whatever.
Won and lost.
Yes, was the loser leaves town or loser leaves the WWF match from the 25th of January 1993 edition of Monday Night Raw between the Nature Boy Ric Flair and Mr. Perfect. How long has it been since you have seen this match, Mags? Not today. Don't just go a few hours. I mean, before today.
I don't remember watching it since I watched it in the first time back in the 90s.
Ah, okay. I think I watched it for a podcast, but a long time ago, back when I was still maybe doing like SJP way back in the early days. So we're looking maybe a year or two. But I put this forward because I wanted to see a Mr. Perfect match, and we always look at the Bret Hart ones, we always look at this. So this sort of stood out to me when I put it forward.
Yep.
What are your thoughts looking back on this match for the first time in quite a while?
So my first initial thought was how quick this was booked, how quick the storyline was. Now, obviously, Ric Flair was aligned with Perfect when he came into the company. Obviously, Perfect was part of his crew when he won the title at the Royal Rumble. And obviously they'd had a fallout with him and with Perfect and Heenan. But I actually went back to the episode before to kind of get the context, because for those who don't know, this is actually on the third ever episode of Monday Night Raw. Yeah. So and this was Ric Flair leaving the company and going back to WCW. So I kind of wanted to refresh myself with how we got to this point. And we got to this point because Mr. Perfect interfered at the end of Ric Flair's match with El Matador. And Flair was so incensed that he stormed the commentary table and told Vince that the WWF wasn't big enough for both him and Mr. Perfect, so he wants a match with him, and the loser has to leave. So essentially, that match was booked 1 week, happened the next week, and Ric Flair is out of the company the week after. So yeah, it was quite a surprise how Ric Flair's last match for the company in a long time was basically a 2 week storyline. Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah, he, according to Flair himself, he was, I don't know what the term would be. I mean, homesick, I suppose, even though he never really spent much time in his own home. He was he wanted to be back down south, so to speak, with his mates, didn't he? Yeah. And didn't like the travelling that the WWF had on offer for him. And the schedule, I don't think has ever bothered Ric Flair. And I don't really think the travelling bothered Ric Flair either. But I think they were travelling.
He wanted to be with his mates. Yeah.
Yeah, the travelling wasn't the issue. I think it was, the actual travelling itself wasn't the problem. It was the locations up north they were travelling to. It's more, he wanted to do that travelling just down south, maybe.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah. Something I picked up watching this match back today is that obviously this is 1993. This felt like a 1987.
This felt like prime Ric Flair territory style match.
Yes, Jim Crockett Promotions, all that Mid-Atlantic, all that sort of stuff. Where
he would go in as champion and make their top star look amazing, so that top star would look legitimate for that company and really help that promotion or that territory out. It was very old school, and to me, that's a great thing because I like that kind of old school wrestling. I'm not a massive fan of the flippy stuff. I mean, I appreciate the technical skill, but for me, wrestling bread and butter is the old style wrestling. But saying that, I think it was also to the detriment of this match as well, because they went to the well on so many things multiple times. And I think it really takes away from this match. This match, with the people in it, this match could have easily been an absolute barn burner. But for me, it felt almost, I don't want to say phoned in, but it felt like they didn't use their minutes effectively. We saw too many spots where it was repeated multiple times, which really kind of felt like a letdown almost.
Yeah, and they were given plenty of time as well, weren't they?
There was 3 matches on this episode, and this got 20 odd minutes, 23 minutes, I think, on a show that's now 45 minutes long on the network. So they got half of the time, multiple ad breaks in between. So yeah, they got a lot of time. I think maybe it just felt like it wasn't planned as well as a Ric Flair and a Mr. Perfect match usually is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, pretty much everything you said there, I think is territory feel, but almost. I mean,
and we froze. I don't know who's froze on your guy's screen, but Simon looks like he's praying right now.
Okay,
Brilliant.
am I back?
You're back.
I'm back. Right,
you froze with your eyes closed, which was quite weird. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how you were.
Was it really? Oh my god. Yeah. Okay, it looks like I'm firing back up now. I don't know what's going on there, but we shall plow on and get through, and because we haven't got much left to do, so yes, let's really.
Saz really thinking about this and finishing off that under desk entertainment. You know what? That is spot on. It actually looked like he was on the vinegar strokes. You're right there.
On the vinegar strokes. Bloody hell. I mean,
he was thinking of a Barry Windham match at that time.
I was. Well, we mentioned
you were just saying how amazing my analysis was on the match and how it looked very like an old school territory match, and how it wasn't the best match of these two's career.
No, and again, spot on. I can't really add much to that. That's exactly accurate. You know, it is very much that way. I love the old territory days. I love the old NWA, Jim Cobb Promotions, Ric Flair era. Fantastic stuff. And I didn't mind seeing that again here. Didn't bother me at all. But there were moments I was watching thinking, oh, come on, lads, you know. Just get on with it, sort of thing. The guy on commentary.
I mean, how bad is that? How bad is that? Where we know this is essentially Ric Flair's last televised match in the company, because we find out at the end of the match that he has to fulfill his duties for the weekend, as President Jack Tunney has said. But yeah, how weird is it that we're talking about Ric Flair's last match for the company, and we want it to finish. We want him to hurry up, and it's because they do. It feels like that they may have phoned it in.
Yeah, potentially. It's a shame. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still enough here to keep me entertained. I wouldn't be.
I mean, a Ric Flair and Mr. Perfect match is infinitely better than 90% of other wrestlers out there. But this, we know that these two are able to do so much better.
I'll tell you what it was like, Magsy. Literally just popping in my head now. You know, you see the matches with Flair, and he goes to a 45-minute draw, or he goes to a 60-minute draw. You know, the matches with Sting or Luger or Wyndham, and he goes to the long distance and ends up drawing the match. It felt like the first 20 minutes of one of those, but we didn't get the last 20 minutes where the pace quickens up towards the end of the contest. That's how it felt to me.
That makes sense. That really does make sense.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we get some great moments as well, though, don't get me wrong. There's a backslide effort. I love a backslide. I can't tell you why, but I love a backslide when it's done properly and it looks competitive. It's not just a case of hooking the arms and just dropping down. When it looks competitive, you know, and they're really battling for this. And go on.
That's a T-shirt. I love a backslide. I love a backslide.
Yeah, thank and Heenan on commentary here is fantastic as well, because he's also got his Flair allegiances, and we're not talking Royal Rumble 92 good, but he is one of the more entertaining things that we're seeing. I mean, there's a moment where, I mean, he's screaming during the backslide spot, drop to your knees because then he can't get you over, and all that, stuff that makes sense, but the way he's doing it is so biased towards Flair. He shouts to Flair at one stage, because the Manhattan Center, I think it is they're in. Is that the name of the place? The Manhattan, yeah. It's a very tiny venue. So you can hear Heenan shout. Well, Flair can hear Heenan shouting, sorry. And he's trying to get a message to him. And he comes up and he's picked up the timekeeper's hammer for ringing the bell. And he's showing Flair that he's got it, and he hides it in his jacket and so on. Just little things like that, just because he's desperate
it's so good.
Oh, yeah. Heenan's amazing.
It's so good. Someone
who was not amazing is Rob Bartlett, who was an early commentator on WWE's Raw.
I vaguely remembered him, but when I turned on the episode and saw him, I thought, fuck. And I think he was only around for maybe 10 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, we're not.
But he was awful. He was, and like I said, I watched bits of the previous episode of Raw, and he was on that, and he was crap on that. The one good thing that he did in this match was, after about 5-10 minutes or so, he shut the fuck up, and you didn't hear from him. And Vince even makes a comment by saying, "Oh, you finally chirped in," and he said, "Yeah, I'm just really enjoying this match." And I thought, Were you really enjoying it, or are you just bad at your job?
He got cut off a few times by Vince as well, because he was saying stupid shit. In the Macho Man, the show opens, this episode of Raw opens with Macho Man versus Repo Man. Mm-hmm. And Rob Bartlett said, because Macho Man obviously is thinning out a bit on top, he makes the comment of, is Macho Man wearing a tan or a skin-coloured skull cap? You know that's going to annoy Vince. Vince is going to be like, why are you pointing out flaws in our superstars? Ric Flair does I suppose the term for it is the Flair flop, where he's punched and kicked a few times, tries to walk away.
Does he say, what the hell was that?
Yeah, what the hell was that? And it's like, oh, mate, shut up. Yes, it looks ridiculous, but don't draw attention to it. Crying out loud,
Yeah. Just to go off topic, did you notice what colour Ric Flair was wearing?
Red. Yeah.
There we go, sir. There we go.
Knew it was coming. Perfect is bleeding quite early as well. So again, we're looking at territory days wrestling. We're looking at territorial, mid-Atlantic and so on star wrestling. The baby face is bleeding early on.
And the spot that causes the bleeding, because it's quite clear, Perfect blades, is when Perfect tries to do the Ric Flair over the turnbuckle spot, and he looks like he bodges it really, really badly, because he doesn't get the kind of pace and elevation that Flair is able to do, and he almost has to force himself over the top rope, bumps himself on the apron and on the post. Kind of tucks into underneath the apron of the ring, and then he comes up bleeding, and then we get the typical Ric Flair where he's hitting the wound to try and open it up, and it doesn't seem to work properly. So instead of getting the kind of the blonde hair covered in blood, so it goes bright red and really kind of stands out, it just looks like he's maybe dyed a little bit of his hair in an emo phase.
Like Jericho in the match before.
Yeah, pretty much exactly the same. Yeah, it's when you see blood in a match, and especially Ric Flair is an expert in it. His hair goes bright red, and he's bleeding all over.
And he's got crazy wide white eyes as well, hasn't he?
Yeah. With Perfect, it just didn't seem to work. It's almost like his blood clotted so quickly that not enough of it came out.
Yeah. We do get some more classic, I suppose, territory day stuff. Heel wrestling, though, with Flair. He uses the rope a great deal to assist certain moves. Figure four, he uses the ropes for. He uses the ropes on a sleeper hold as well at one point. And we get the one that we don't tend to see as much anymore, but I think it's brilliant. It's when the ref is asking him, "Have you used the ropes? Are you cheating?"
And he's like,
Flair's
no.
on his knees, going, "No, no, no!" And behind him, he's using his shin to choke Mr. Perfect, but the ref can't see because that is just we don't see enough of that. I don't think.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Flair goes to the well quite a few times when he goes down on his knees and does the no. I think he does it a couple of times with Perfect to stop Perfect attacking him. But yeah, Flair is so good at those little details that not every other wrestler would think about, and it just shows his man for the business was on another level.
Yeah, and this to me is why he's one of the greatest of all time. Just so good, so good. We as I said, we get the figure 4 inevitably. We get a moment as well where, and this would be quite of interest to anyone who listens to Nitro Nights and they know how Danny and I have been slagging off Hulk Hogan for this kind of thing, where Mr. Perfect is getting chopped in the corner, punched in the corner, and so on, and he does the whole no selling it. And starts walking towards Flair. But
he ultimate warriors him.
Yes, but there's a massive difference here. Hogan, Danny and I, Scottish Danny and I on Nitro Nights have been slaughtering Hogan for this because Hogan no sells it, walks. You know how Hogan operates. Mr. Perfect here, he's no, exactly. The finger comes out and everything, Magsy. He's no selling the chops and the punches, but he's not no selling them as if they just don't hurt. He's obviously feeling them, but he's just not. He's making out he's not showing any, and he's still limping a bit from a previous move. You know, he's still selling other aspects, and he still looks disheveled and deep breathing and so on because he's been in a fight. Not like Hogan, like he's like nothing's affected him and he's Superman. So to me, it really showed a great babyface aspect of Mr. Perfect, who, to be fair, has always been a better heel. He comes across like he's got that babyface fire in him, and it worked really, really well. Yeah,
I think it showed he had anger. Like, if you've ever been in a fight and you get so angry that when somebody's hitting you, you don't sell it because it's just adding fuel to your anger fire, I suppose. That's how that came across to me. Not like Perfect was no selling just to piss Flair off. It had a point. And I really like that. And it kind of reminds me of something that we didn't really touch upon at the beginning of this. The way they opened this match with Flair pushing Perfect and then Perfect just dry slapping Flair. Thought that was a really good opening to a match. Very. It showed the passion of this storyline, even though it was only a couple of weeks. That built to this, it showed that this meant a lot to both wrestlers.
Yes, yeah. I suppose we're basically at the finish now, aren't we? Really, and that's another one similar to our match previously. That kind of comes out of nowhere, but I think I buy this one a little bit more potentially because the Perfect Plex had that aura of people not being able to kick out of it, and he would hit it once and it'd be over. Whereas with the pedigree in the Jericho match, like you said, it kind of, the way Jericho jumped with the crossbody and so on, it kind of sort of foreshadowed it. Here, Flair puts his head down for a backdrop, and we all know how the Perfect Plex is applied and so on. When Flair bends over for the backdrop, my mind isn't thinking Perfect Plex, but boom, it's snapped on, and it's such a beautiful move as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Perfect Plex, but it does seem out of absolutely nowhere. Again. And there's a couple of spots that we've kind of brushed over. There's one where Flair has some knuckles, some brass knuckles in his knee pad. He clocks Perfect with them, and then there's a really weird spot, and I think kind of like the finish to the Triple H and Jericho match. It may have looked better on paper. But basically Ric Flair is thrown into the corner, does the whole toppling over the buckle, and then he walks right across the apron, gets onto the top rope to do something off the top rope, and I think there was a bit of miscommunication because it looked like Perfect was meant to maybe catch him or perform some sort of move, and he just ends up knocking him to the floor, which felt really weird and kind of like added to my thoughts that this match was almost being phoned in.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, mate. That's fair enough. So I suppose once again, I mean, well, before we actually get to our scores out of 10, Magsy, Bobby Heenan at the end of the match goes absolutely berserk,
getting bleeped out as well. That was brilliant by Bobby Heenan. Really kind of like slamming his headset down. Ends up walking, going over to raise Ric Flair's hand, I think, at the end. Perfect celebrating in the ring. But yeah, that passion from Bobby Heenan, it definitely added to the match.
Yeah, definitely. How much did it add though, Magsy? What did the final score for you come to out of 10, my friend?
Okay, so I hate doing this because ring work, I think these two are in the upper echelon of wrestling talent. Flair is often called one of the best to ever do it, and I think Mr. Perfect is probably the best wrestler to never win a world title. But this was a drag to watch at points. Both these guys have had 10 times better matches. And because of how good their quality is, I think I have to rank this lower than I would say this was two other wrestlers.
Okay.
Because it wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the imagination, but these two should be doing so much better because of how good they are. So I'm going to give this a 6.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I feel the need to show you this now, just to make sure that people don't think that I'm making this up as we go along. I'm a smidge off you again, mate. A smidge off you again. I've got a 5.5 there. Look.
Now, wow, I did not think you would have gone lower than me on a Ric Flair match.
No, I think if this match is to be used as the example for Flair matches, then I feel that this match needed to be 10 minutes shorter. So you can cut out some of the chuff and speed it up, pace it along a little bit, or it needed to be half an hour longer. So what seems like a slow build can then start turning into what we get in the longer Flair matches at the back end of his contests. I think this is a WWE main event sort of time, 20 odd minutes ish. When you look at the WrestleMania main events, you're looking at around 18 minutes to 25 minutes on in general. Normally, if you look at like the Triple H match, for example, was about 19 minutes, 18 minutes long that we covered this week. So it's just, it's a sort of standard-ish WWE main event length of contest, and it just didn't seem to work for what Flair is good at. Whether it's a shorter match where he just blitzes through his criteria, or it's a longer match where he can tell the story. Again, I'm probably nitpicking a little bit there, but that's kind of just how I felt with it, mate.
Yeah, you make absolute sense. I almost feel that Flair had given Vince his decision to leave very recent to when this match happened, because I think if there were more time for Flair and Perfect to kind of plan this match, I think it could have been better. Maybe Flair was just so eager to go that it was, let's get this done. But yeah, I think you're right. This needed to be a lot less time and just go hell for leather for pace. But as I said, a Flair and Perfect match, even if it's a really bad one, is better than 90% of other people's good matches.
Yeah, fair shake. And from what I can gather as well, Flair gave his notice or asked for his release, I suppose is the correct way of wording it, about 3 weeks previous. So when he worked at the Rumble the night before, obviously they knew he was on his way out because they were talking about this match already there. But he said Vince respected the way he had done things and respected the way that Flair had worked for him in that previous kind of 2-year period. Granted his release on the basis that he did, his obligations as he finished up. So yeah, I mean, I suppose the correct way of wording it is he did business on the way out. Bret Hart.
Brilliant.
So then, Mr. Mags. So then, where shall we go next week? We've got 2 matches here, or 2 shows, or however you want to word it. We can potentially link from. What are you thinking?
Yep. So I think recently there's been a lot of really good matches on Chain Wrestling that we've watched. This obviously have not been the best, but certainly still 2 pretty enjoyable matches. But watching good wrestling isn't always the best for especially for a show like this where we want something where we can maybe take the piss a little bit. But what I didn't realise was on this show was also one of my favourite wrestling gimmicks of all time. And in one of his more famous mini storylines, again, kind of like the Flair and the Perfect one, this was a storyline that happened over 2 weeks. So I want to watch the opening to this episode.
Okay.
I want to watch Repo Man versus Macho Man Randy Savage. And I also want to watch the reason why this match was happening. So we will essentially be watching the kind of the vignettes and the promos from the week before, and then going into the match, the blow-off match from this feud of all feuds.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. So Repo Man versus Randy Savage from the opener of the same edition of Monday Night Raw. So what was that, the 25th of January, wasn't it? Yeah. And the whole build-up and storyline. And there's a lot of fun to be had with that, to be fair. There's a lot of fun to be had with that storyline and everything building up. So, yeah. Yeah, great show. Great show.
I mean, there's not that much. It's literally 2 episodes of Raw, but it was certainly fun. And there's not enough Macho Man love on Chain Wrestling, and there's never any Repo Man love. So vote for it, people.
See, you say that there's not enough Repo Man love or Barry Darsow and so on. He's actually in my match too.
Get to fuck.
He is, mate. He is genuinely
Wow.
in my match too. I tried to look up and down the cards and see who have we not seen much of, and then I remembered your obsession with Repo Man, Barry Darsow, etc. And then I kind of thought we've covered the match that I have in my mind. Surely, I know we have. We've discussed it. So I went back on the spreadsheet, which is incredibly out of date now because I've not updated it for ages. I went back on the spreadsheet now to see have we covered the match that was in my mind, and it turns out we haven't. But it was put forward on a poll many, many, many moons ago in an audio-only episode before we ever went live.
Okay.
And it lost the poll very, very narrowly. So we didn't end up covering it.
I thought you were going to say very, very convincingly.
No. It was quite a narrow loss. So I thought, well, we'll have a look at that. It's Repo Man is the link I'm using from that episode of Monday Night Raw, who was also, of course, Demolition Smash. I would like to go to SummerSlam 1990 and watch the Hart Foundation versus Demolition for the WWF Tag Team title.
Wow, ironic, because I've been binging a YouTube channel called Wrestling Bios. It's an Irish guy who kind of talks about wrestlers and their careers, and I actually watched the Anvil Neidhart one today.
Okay.
And a big part of that is the tag team of the Hart Foundation and their kind of like heel run, and then when he came back into the company and they turned face. Apparently, building up to that, Brett was meant to go on that's when he was meant to start his single run. And I'll have to rewatch the video to refresh, but something happened where Brett wasn't going to get that push, so they basically reformed the team for that match and end up winning the tag titles.
Interesting. Okay. But there we go. Either way, mate, we get to have a little look at Barry Darsow next week.
Yeah, win-win. I mean,
there we go.
That's heartwarming. I mean, from being ironically liking Barry Darsow to actually really liking him now. Yeah, I'm happy either way. Let's hope for a draw. Dan, can you do it
Dan.
2 weeks in a row? Can you do it 2 weeks in a row?
He's just said in the chat there, draw again, folks. So those are your choices. We have the Repo Man versus Macho Man Randy Savage from the 25th of January 1993 edition of Raw, or we go back a little bit further in time and take in a WWF Tag Team Championship match from SummerSlam 90, and we have Demolition versus the Hart Foundation. The poll will be up, as always, later in the week after the audio version has come out. Make sure you get your votes in, and make sure you retweet it as well. I want to see as many retweets and encouragement from the CWF to try and bring more people into our little circle, as long as they're not.
We want the casuals in. We love you. We love you, hardcores, but we've got you.
And I'll tell you what,
we now need to bring the casuals in.
next week is a ratings winner, because we could be looking at the Repo Man. So there we go. That's how you bring the casuals in, mate.
Exactly.
There we go. A couple of quick comments in the chat before we depart. Dan Griffin here saying, Brett would have given Vince the belt. Shut your heathen mouth, Si. Yeah, but yet, he still had to get screwed. So something went wrong. Yeah, hey, who knows? And we have Scottish Danny here saying, Si having a dig at Bret Hart while sat there in a Shawn Michaels t-shirt. I love this show. And we love you too, Danny. And look at that. It is a bloody great Shawn Michaels t-shirt, isn't it? Look at that. Lovely stuff.
And then Dan comes with this pearl. Last 2 recordings he's done with Sa, he's been wearing a Bret shirt. He cannot be trusted. Yeah, he's flip-flops. More turns than the Big Show.
I do. I had Lex Luger's shirt on earlier.
Wow. Was it laundry day?
And I'll tell you what as well, it's not Lex Luger the total package. It's all American.
It's the narcissist.
No, it's not even the narcissist.
It's the one narcissist Lex Luger t-shirt that they've ever sold.
The only one they ever sold. Yeah, they got a warehouse full of this old narcissist.
It's his WBF and drinking a pint of milk t-shirt.
Yeah, I would. Tell you what, if that was on a t-shirt, I would wear it. Magsy, do you want to let everyone know whereabouts they can find you online, my friend?
Yes, sir. So you can find me on Twitter at PodfatherMags. I may eventually reply to you, although I am still pretty much on a social media kind of exodus. But you know what? It's really good. It's actually really refreshing to just kind of like not cut yourself off, but not be on as active. You kind of get able to really get your mind right. But you can follow me on there, or you can follow me on TikTok at MagsAllPods. So come and check me out. I'm also not that active on there either, so you might be better off WhatsApping me, because at least I reply eventually.
Tweet the show and I'll pass it on. You can find me on Twitter at SJPWords, and on Facebook there is a group there, SJP All the Shows and Info, and you have links to all the shows and info, I guess, from both of those. So a little bit of time traveling geekiness with the Doctor Who pod that we do with Dan Griffin. Waiting Room podcast I do with Benny Mack, covering Quantum Leap, one show at a time as well. And if WCW is your bag, the very up and down history of that crazy company, Scottish Danny and I look at that one show at a time from the very first Nitro onwards on Nitro nights. But most importantly, you can find this show on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and that TikTok thingamy at chain_wrestling. That's at chain_wrestling. But as always, at SJP Words for me, and there's links to all the shows, including this one, that stem from there. And yes, people, in case you missed it on Twitter this week, t-shirts are coming. Magsy's in the designs. Maybe we'll let you have a little sneaky look sometime soon. Who knows? Magsy, my friend, I've had a blast. I've had an absolute blast. I'm looking forward to some Barry Darsow love next week.
Me too. I may come back for next week's episode now.
I'm off now to watch SummerSlam 93 because I'm a glutton for fucking punishment. Magsy, I'll see you next week, bud.
Enjoy. Bye-bye. And I haven't got the video ready, so this is a weird outro. Bye, CWF.